Um, yeah, what I wanted to say was I taught middle school for 30 years, and I mostly wrote academic kinds of things. And a couple of years ago, I started writing poetry again. I started out as a creative writing major in the fall of '69 at Michigan State University. I live pretty close to there. So both of my kids lived on the West Coast for a long time. Both of my parents are dead. So I was really interested in connecting with my father's family. And in 2007, we discovered that the family farm is still there. And the village is Pofi. It's a hill village, and the farm is in the foothills. It's about 35 miles from Rome. So most of my relatives are farmers. And the biggest surprise, and it was really great, was when we first got there, and my husband and I brought our two daughters in 2007. My cousin Vittorio, who is at the farm now, looks so much like my father, who died in 1986. So it was wonderful. And so I've been taking Italian classes now and then. And the last time we went was in October of 2019. But so the reason why I decided to put a book together is because I was so moved. And I'm almost 70 years old. And so some of you might be close to that age. I'm not sure. But you start writing a lot of memoir type things. So I hope this is okay with you. I've got a couple of more recent things too, but this first one is called Letter Writing. And most of you know that WACs are Women Army Corps. My mother was a WAC in World War II, and she met my dad there. They were both stationed in Alaska. This one's called Letter Writing. Some soldiers thrived on smokes. My father, Gidio, relied on writing home. He kept his green, leather-bound English-Italian dictionary in his pocket for the best part of his day, letter writing in Italian at nightfall. That small volume, dated 1943, rests on a shelf in my study. The letters are gone, but when I hold the dictionary with its frayed edges and corners turned down, my heart soars. I envision how his parents felt when the posts arrived from the Yukon. His father Giacinto's heart rose as he read to wife Luisa of Morse code training and how Gidio missed Mama's zuppe. When the posts arrived, sometimes a week's worth at a time, Giacinto smiled with pride at the sight of perfectly composed, polite Italian. At home, they spoke only in dialect. And when the posts arrived, each word in Gidio's careful hand, his father's heart rose as he read about the news of meeting fair, blue-eyed Betty, a molto bella WAC, who also served on base in the Yukon. Gidio was over the moon. Betty was taken with him too. Naturally, Luisa wanted Gidio to marry a girl from the Detroit neighborhood who could make a good sauce, whom she could bully, and have children baptized and given saints' names. Gidio was far from thoughts of the church. And after the war, before they were married, Gidio liked to take his green, leather-bound English-Italian dictionary from his pocket. He would search the pages with their corners turned down and choose the perfect English words at the best part of the day, letter writing his love to Betty at nightfall. Sorry, I'm still getting used to reading and my throat gets dry when I'm kind of stressed. So I hope you're friendly. This one is called Stereoscope, and it occurs a few years later. 70 years ago, life played out in shades of gray for my mother, But she longed to view it in the colors of the parks she and my father would see once they had saved $200 for a used roadster. She had seen Alaska, but had not laid eyes yet on Denali. She'd not viewed the multicolored sunrise over Yellowstone, the outcrops of Aztec sandstone in Red Rock Canyon, or Yosemite's firefall as the sun hits Horsetail Falls, illuminating upper reaches in fire red. She would settle for even one of these as long as Dad was beside her. So they moved into a small upstairs apartment above Dad's parents in Detroit, did without a car, took the bus, saved $5 a month in an envelope marked Parks. Although the smell of fried garlic wafted upstairs and drove her to near insanity, and although the in-laws spoke in tongues as though she did not exist, Mom looked past all that. Soon she'd see the Parks, far from the old neighborhood, maybe even move to their own home. When the first baby arrived in '47, the road trip was put on hold, but not her dreams. Dad snapped photos of baby in black and white, then developed them in the hall closet, hand coloring them in pencil. When baby number 2 arrived in spring of '49, they moved 2 blocks away to a house with room for the kids to play. For her birthday that spring, Dad bought Mom a Viewmaster. The accompanying booklet boasted that one could see third dimension pictures in full color Kodachrome. Mom saw Yellowstone, Red Rock Canyon, Denali, and Yosemite in vibrant slides of stereoscope as she told stories about the national parks to my brother and sister and to me, baby number 3. Just wave your hands around if I'm not boring you. Thanks.
Oh, by the way, I just have to say, I think as best I can understand this group, they're very friendly.
Oh, good.
Very friendly. Just, for your information.
Yeah, I thought so. Okay, so the first poem in this chapbook is called For My Father Gidio, and it's basically me addressing my father as if he were there. For my father Gidio, I stand at the door of your childhood home, and I think to myself, we draw breath from the same sky. I seek brown eyes, my eyes, and arms that draw me in, offer ageless affection. I ache for insight of the abyss that grows when children leave and parenti perish. I crave broad Roman faces, twinkling recognition, voices that croon dialect, a sky that enfolds the house that still holds you and welcomes me. The door has been removed, the concrete and stone structure wide open, but it is full. Ancient farm implements rest where you once did. Back then, did you look up into the same night sky, count the same stars, dream of America as I dream of returning to the same spot? The newer house is concrete, 2 floors rather than 1, tiled, not dirt. You could have used all these rooms for your cousins who had shared the space. How many of your father's family have lived in this house, farmed the land, worked the vineyard and olive grove? Vittorio and Pierina build on tradition as they build onto the house for a returning son. They look after the farm, reduced in size over time, acres sold to survive droughts and poor harvests, pay bills. Camila, Vittorio's mother, has recently died. All but one child, grown, gone, and settled, with families of their own. The old and new homes stand side by side. At the inside door to the outdoor kitchen, plastic strips hang to allow the air to flow, to welcome the farm dog and the cat who rides his back. The stove uses gas, not wood. The storeroom is stocked with farina and newly made pasta, salami, Wine is lined up on the shelf, awaiting sustenance and celebration. An attached dining room holds a wooden table beneath a roof of clay tiles. Even now, there is much to celebrate: births, holidays, saints' days, visits from American cousins. Bread cools on the counter, fresh basil, sauteed garlic and tomatoes simmer in the day's sauce. A simple ensalada mista has been prepared. We sit down for la cena, find a table simply set. Red wine, salami, fresh bread, await, teasing appetites. Oh, how I wish you were here. This next is for my grandfather, Jacinto. And this was a few years later when we went back again. I return to the farm in Pofi and stand on a slight rise overlooking acres of olives, grapes, and fields. Under an open cloudless sky, I squint through a brilliant sun and imagine you, old straw hat on your head, hoe in your hand. The air is balmy with the redolence of freshly turned earth. Your brother Vincenzo guides a horse-drawn harrow a few rows over. You both started at dawn, feeding the animals, but you are young and have energy to spare, even in the afternoon heat. The same sun that deepened olive brown skin as Jacinto worked the soil and pruned the vines a century ago glows through me now. I walk along rows of tomatoes, peppers, admire the grapes and olives, bless those rays that hold me, body and soul. Closing my eyes, I hear the sheep, a tractor hum. Soft wind ruffles olive branches when the work is through. Returning to the house, you think of dinner, smell the pasta, crusty bread baked that morning. You will uncork the wine that you and Vincenzo made last year. Pour generous glasses for the adults, small ones for the children. The work has been hard and the day long, so you will converse little as you eat. But as the day cools, you will sit outside with the family, peel some oranges, handing sections to the children. Talk with Nona Luisa will be light as the sky moves to navy blue. Today, as I turn toward the outdoor kitchen, I know that homemade pasta and red sauce await me. After dinner, my cousins, La Mia Familia, will sit beneath the covered veranda, nibble fruit, and I will lean into the language of my family, contributing little, but understanding much. I think maybe some of us have all gone through this where you have to clean out a parent's house after they've passed away. This one is called What Lingers. As my mother grew older, she developed a preference for French perfume. The fragrance followed her from the bath to her rocking chair and nestled into the Afghan she threw over her knees. Before her last surgery, my mother had set out her will, noting to whom her emerald ring should go, the contents of the safety deposit box, and her wish for a simple memorial. Still, no one ever tells you about having to take back the gifts you gave, the photographs you framed, birthday cards you sent, Afghan you crocheted. When my brothers and I entered the house, it was as though she never left. Here a Sinatra record out of its sleeve. There an Agatha Christie book open, peppermint gum tucked into a drawer. An oil painting of her father's barn sat unfinished at an easel. In her closet, blouses and slacks were arranged by color. A leather folder on the shelf above held Dad's first paycheck stub, a copy of their marriage license, Mom's Army discharge papers, and the love letters. I reimagine her in White Horse, Alaska, Winter is lit by young love's kisses against the white puffed air. Loose yellow photographs slide out of onion-thin paper, reveal love wrapped in coats and scarves, unmistakable heat. We sell the house, disperse furniture, divide checks among siblings, but no one tells you about the random dial of numbers, numbers found by fingers as easily as in years past. The ring is hollow, empty, unanswered. A deep longing grows. But sometimes the creak of a rocking chair slips into dreams. Then mornings find my cat asleep, curled into the Afghan, lightly scented with French perfume. My husband, Bob, is a disabled Vietnam veteran who was drafted right before he graduated. I met him after he got out of the hospital. He spent about a year and a half in hospitals. I was 19 and he was 25 when I met him. I knew nothing, I had traveled nowhere. This poem is called Still Waiting, and it recalls one of the first days that I knew him. It was in April of 1971. Still waiting. When I walked to our meeting place to wait for you by the river, it was another 70s evening for girls with flowers in their hair and boys lucky enough to snag deferments or low lottery numbers. Students strolled by in a restless shuffle back to dorms for dinner. Light grew dim, and I waited. Night classes stirred sandals into a growing hustle, past the peace sign on the big rock, past the tents in People's Park. Still, I waited. Guitars strummed, leaflets and weed were offered. A boisterous group with signs marched to Beaumont Tower. They had no problem speaking their mind, but you did. I thought back to a night soon after we met. We sat up till 4 a.m. under a faint blue light on your bed, where you spilled what guts you did not lose on the front lines. You spoke of women and children, huts you would not set ablaze, the surprise attack, and the men in your company who were gone while you lived on. The war took so much more than your body. For a time, it took your voice. As I dared to reveal myself, you held me at a distance, masking your face, closing me out of all but the most required talk. Did I misjudge you? Expect too much? Push too hard? I was aware of my naivety, you who had breathed death. Still, in the beginning, you had agreed to walk and talk and just be together. So I resolved to be patient, to hold my peace, to give you room, to move beyond my own need, to know your mind. So I waited at our meeting place. You did not see me waiting for you by the river. An hour went by, and then another. When at last your headlights came into view, you drove right past without a look in my direction. Why couldn't you see me waiting for you by the river? Branches whispered, entwined over slow black water. The breeze kicked up, grew cold. We are better now. I learned to leave you alone in your dark moods, and we don't always talk with words. At the river, we did not know the depth of ache. Now, infusions restore some lost power. You stand tall in the growth of our landscape. Dark times are rare. Nonetheless, years later, I pass that place and remember the fear, the hurt, the dread, as crowds of students still head to class, still gather at Beaumont Tower, still form a never-ending flow. I wanted to talk, but you didn't. See me? I'm still here. We'll always be here, waiting for you. I have a couple of more. This one was written, I believe, in the summer. It's called Rumble. The firmaments rumble, fume over withheld rain, the real storm yet to begin, as police wear entitlement like shields, wield misplaced power, prey upon those they have pledged to protect. Flames of protest will not be contained. Troops sent to stop the rumble offer no justice, fan the flames further. Street rumbling grows louder, from Portland to Kenosha to DC, cannot concede the violence and murder of yet another Black man, shot 7 times at close range, in the presence of his children, a nightmare that will haunt for life. Alive but paralyzed, shackled to a hospital bed, officers' thinly veiled bias claimed self-defense, unleashed more protests. Peaceful marchers strove to focus on the fate of Jacob Blake. New violence could result if fueled by tanks and men in unmarked vehicles out of uniform who had yanked peaceful protesters into cars in Portland with no cause. A shameful election year ploy, nearly a celebration of man's inhumanity to man. Flagrant hate in a guise of law and order. Of hate that floods a wide band of white armed men, clothed in hoods, who proclaimed Trump a savior. Some stand openly armed among voices that chant, no justice, no peace. Impassioned grief and anger on placards that list the victims' names as numbers grow. One white teen who mistook himself for a patriot moved into the crowd, murdered 2, wounded 1, but no bullets poured through his back. No taser rained on him, arrested a full 2 days later, and only after daunting demands from protesters of all races, who stood with families of the maimed and slain, and who called for peace, even as their beloved son was cut down like a dog by police in the presence of children. Yet these criminals still walk free. A hard rain's it gonna fall. This last one was inspired by what news stations should have focused on more than giving airtime to a bully's nasty tweets. I think this was written in September. It's called Stargazing. These days stretch out slowly as night appears, starless at times, even soundless, as we gaze at what the Greeks called buotes, meaning ox driver or plowman. And it seems suitable for both sowing seeds and for sickness that has worked so many into the ground, or into patients barely breathing, barely conscious at times. But those that are, ponder light past hospice halogen. Some could look to windows and conjure the constellations like Libra scales that can balance seasons of light. When the night moves moaning, lifts the lifeless onto gurneys and death as the fight goes on for another breath. We the living go on, complain of masks, staying home, as the real saints work bedside with the sick and dying, stand shields for woeful shifts that never end, just to send mothers home to children who have longed to hold them close, to locate Ursa Minor rotating around the North Celestial Pole, offering major light to days that had once stretched slowly into dark months of night. That's it. Thank you.
Well, this is the most recent thing I've written, and it was 2 days ago I wrote this, and it's definitely related to what's going on right now. So I'm sure that if I decided to ever publish it, I'd probably go over it a little bit. But it's called 10,000 Insect Eyeballs. Midnight shadows in the big house. white pillars of salt in the cartoon kerosene moonlight. Cold January turns time into a slow mo tango for mediocrity. A tinsel town heaven in gumshoe purgatory. A man with 1,000 watches peers from a chilled colonial room. Let us vaccinate murder with prayer. Outside the window of doom, see his face illuminated by Mississippi torches. Bland lights glare like blank moth. Where'd I go here? Where did that go? Okay, sorry. We'll move past that line. I can't remember. Moth light, I guess. Okay, his demon seeds await the sun to grow and strangle everyone. A nightmare where guns turn into snakes. Salinger went mad after seeing bodies in the Holocaust. Arthur Janov wrote in The Primal Scream that the psychotic never felt as good as never felt so good as when he murdered someone. They need to break reality into broken glass to break into the center. With sedition comes peace. To the minions of his psychoses. Oh, the joy of hurting the smart kid in school. 10,000 insect eyeballs in the river of night. And this was sort of a more truncated version of the same poem where I got rid of all of the imagery. I just broke it down. Television face, business light box, camcorder, walkers, big desk, big suit, conditional love daddy, machine gun fatty, sad mannequins, grand moment, the sheep sleep in sedate sedition, never to wake again. That's that one. I enjoyed the Vietnam poetry that Mary did. And so I had some stuff, I had friends in Vietnam, and it did have a huge impact. I am going to be 70 in April. So this is something I wrote about Vietnam connected to John Kennedy. And I'll find it real quick here. As you can tell, I never plan anything, so welcome to my world. Let's see here. Where did I put that? Yeah, okay. So this is something I wrote called These Wandering Human Beings. These wandering human beings, ever closer to death, voices rattle from old lungs. Deluded by movies of youth at play, I am older, wiser. This not a game. I understand the end. Viet Daco, Ken Burns, Zapruder, JFK, motor car of fame. Brain matter luxury limo. Frantic race to the surgeon of treason. The real reason we were in LBJ's Oil Town Barnyard Canard to begin with, 3 days after the 22nd of Never, the Devil's Bell contract is signed. The scythe whirls its blades, drops young men into razor blade rat mazes, a generation destroyed by motor mines and 6-gun hearts. The evil eye of provocation, napalm, perfume, torches, bloody rank, no redemption. Soldier postman, dress right dress, knocks on the door. A prodigal son never laughing again. Decades of Hallmark cards, a teenager's birthday. Rice paper, dirt, shit, death, last vision. And this one is kind of with the sorrow and the sadness and the winter and all that stuff that's going down. It seems to go on this year. I don't know what it is about December and January, but they're pretty heavy months. I wrote this about a year or two ago. It's called Late Winter Nights I Fear for Us All. Late winter nights, I fear for us all. Friends dying, friends growing old. This season of jagged frozen death. Assassins in the shadows creep. Shoot, stab, maim the innocent. Oil bomb, crazy prayer, revenge monsters. It's all rancid pornography in a light box. I fall to sleep with Beethoven. The news celebrates cowards. It's hard to rest in dystopia. 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m., awakened by my obtuse Burmese cat. I feed her, then wash the cat food smell off of me. The water rises, nature is dying. My comfort is stolen time. Let children dream of optimum fate. Darkness is here to mock this mute moment. Nights of anguish, nights of blight, nights of fear for all who sleep here tonight. So as they used to call, there's what they call comic relief. This is going to be pastoral relief from all this. I'll read from the book that the anthology. Well, there it is. That Kuhn put me in. Thank you, Kuhn, so much. And I had this community garden, and somebody came up to my community garden one time, and it sort of brought this poem out. It was like a muse of the romanticism that I guess I can't help but do. This is called July Came By and Gave August All Her Gold. July came by and gave August all her gold. Love glimmers in her shadow. Skylarks sing to her sunlit flaxen hair. Time rides a butterfly backwards upon the warm summer of imagination. Trees sway in the honey blue heat. Lemon sunflowers wave. Lime spaded bowers clap. Long heated limbs and wheat tips twirl in the arid wind lilt. Bright solar light shards spray the fields. July exits as beautiful as a dove. August arrives like a golden stream. I watched beauty cross the narrow fields of summer. A woman kissed by air and water. The soft touch of a harvest beckoned, ecstatic to waltz the infinite. Yeah, that was, here it is. Edited by Kuhn. This is my little trophy of joy here. And so when Kuhn edited my 168 poems, he helped me to organize them a little better and to put them in a little bit more cohesive fashion. And I'm an English major, and I know good criticism when I read it because I've taken a lot of graduate work. And everything he wrote, I knew was true, but when you're really close to your own work, you don't really want to think about these things. And then somebody does it for you. And then I agreed with everything he said, which was funny. As I read it, I was going, he's right. Mm-hmm, got it. Yep. I just wouldn't admit it, right? So there was a couple of poems in here that kind of have to do with what's going on. One of them I wrote a few years back called The Brutes That Destroyed Beauty. I think it was when Winston was being tortured by Big Brother. Big Brother told him, you see, Winston, all history ever was or ever will be is a boot in the face. And it's not whether or not you love Big Brother, it's that you don't know the difference. And that's kind of what we're talking about. Unbelievable power-hungry people and the incredible elaborate way that they can manipulate people to think it's reality. The brutes that destroyed beauty would claim our history unabashed. With ghost songs in the fractal sky, the lost gravitational idioms crawl by like polluted streams, still waiting. War speak slurs us with genocide and murder. Doctrines to interrupt, scourged and cut, the swords of putrid nations. Loki tyrants continue to wreck us. Erroneous scripts of false consciousness now become their lost satanic fields of justice, clawing and breaking us with cruel tools. The cult of fame with headlines for bloodlines. Genetic striding monsters abound. It's interesting about poets. You know, you're watching all this stuff on television and you're thinking, you know, I haven't been in a fight since I was in grade school, right? You know, these big tough guys going off and, you know, and they're big things that they're so scary, you know, unless they at least, if they took some Navy SEALs in there, it would have changed things real fast, you know, and if you think you're tough, you know, but poets have a tendency to be more dangerous in a strange way because, you know, we have the insight to say things that they don't want to hear, to make them really, because they don't have self-awareness or even an epiphany of what's going on in their lives, really. And poets have a tendency to see in back, they're more peripheral. And so it's almost like they can freeze the time and tell people how they appear to a poet, which sometimes isn't very good. They'd almost wish they'd never asked, you know? So I want to say that that's the interesting thing about what can you do when people flex their muscles and do all that stuff that you did when you were in high school or something. And then you're older and you're thinking, well, I can definitely do poetry as a way of asserting my own existence on this planet, because I know that they couldn't, you know, whatever. I always love these people that are so tough that can't do professional sports, you know. You took them out on a track and you ran them, they probably couldn't even run a mile, you know, a lot of these guys. Anyway, that's my thing for the, there was one more I wanted to read here. I was looking at this. Oh, the Knights of Providence. The Knights of Providence. And of course, as you know, the word providence means God-led or God-driven, in the most pure way. That being that the universe is held together with this intention of harmony. If you've ever heard the poem Song for St. Celia's Day, which is by Dryden, which goes, from heavenly harmony, this universal frame began. When heaven underneath a heap of jarring atoms lie, the tuneful voice was heard from high, arise ye more than dead. When Jubal struck the chorded shell, the listening brethren stood around. What passion cannot music raise and quell? This was how people saw the universe throughout, you know, in olden times, that it was divinely inspired, you know, and it was sort of embellished by the holiness of intention, not necessarily religion. We're not talking about religion, we're talking about something else. So this was called the Knights of Providence. And it's kind of with that in the back of my mind, thinking about that. And this is something that kind of fell apart. I think I was with somebody and it kind of fell apart. In fact, I know I was. This is called the Knights of Providence. Lime green winter lies frozen, cracked in the Nazi night glass. Her blue breath fogs the popsicle ceiling. She says, call me Aurora Borealis. I step out from view in isolation abandonment, lonely in and out. We hold to be one, smooth bodies, temporal bliss. Last night's wind blew sad. I walked Crab Road in soft Christmas light. Rain fell into the sea mist sleep. Dark firestorms, uneasy ghosts, a nervous sky. These are the nights of Providence, of promises lost, purpose at any cost. Catch the moment, see me, for the future will lose me. Why is love a bedfellow to misery? A homely mistaken importance, the end of you and me. How are we doing here? I'll do a couple more here. I hope this is working for you. Kind of what is that? Confessions of Lord Jim or something? Or what's that? I can't remember that book. What is that? Let's see here. I'll just, well, let's see. That one, okay. So this one, I read this at the C&P Coffee House. I actually have two versions of this, and it's about dying. It's about death. My mother is in hospice right now. I lost my brother Billy in May, So I've had a lot of death around me lately. And everything you wrote, Mary, was exactly what we're going through right now with my mother's home. It's really interesting that you were writing about all that. So this is about my own death and how I kind of thought about it. And I don't know if anybody's ever taken any kind of drugs that might be psychotropic in your lives, but you have sometimes with those kind of experiences where people talk about, yeah, it was like I died, it's like being dead. And then you kind of go outside of yourself and you have a little bit more of a objective view of your personality and all that stuff and how you relate to the universe. So this is called When My Eyes No Longer See. The world holds true, a child is nurtured. My unique pathos is angst alive in this atomic painting. Life and death keep moving, with or without me, always and forever to be joined to earth and sea. Soon to be a body pale, sunlight glimmers as ghost angels pass, gliding fast to light the motherlode fair. When my eyes no longer see, I won't hear dull whisperings from passing cars, only music from children playing, green growing grass above this box, bursting daffodils anew. Here now every new day known before it is through. Eternity to see, breathed in, breathed out existence. The eye is a peek hole to the hole of darkness. Lost light knows the void. Okay. So I'll do one more here. I know there was one more in here I wanted to share with you. I was writing all these sort of, it's true. When you get older, you start writing all these poems about you worrying about your family. And I don't know, it's just, you're no longer going, gee, I really love so-and-so, You start writing about these sort of confessionally weird, oh my God, what's happening, This is called The Beautiful Times in the Life That Are Now Disappearing. I suppose this could be a larger thought than just my own. It's early New Year's Eve. I am older, years older. Janie dreams floats timelessly, swimming in the air divine. My mom, brothers, sons, cousins all wrestle life, twisting sway back time into a full Nelson. Waters be calm. Our life remembered, nights of lost innocence, blank decisions, dramatic Derrida, contraband, eager town to be loosened, quick release, puppet dance, jackaboos, and forklift aficionados applaud. Should I do one more? Is that okay? One more. Out of the book. I'll do the book. I'm with you guys. This is our book. This goes out to Kuhn Woon, my mentor. The Genius of Seattle. No, that's not the poem's name. That's what you are. Okay. On the other side of here is a blue pool. I'll quickly tell you why I wrote this. I used to go down to Los Angeles a lot when I was doing all these Borders Books tours, and I used to go out in Hemet, California. And I never really hung out in LA that much. But my friends in Hemet everybody had a freaking swimming pool. LA is totally bizarre. I played everywhere you could possibly imagine Los Angeles, and I raced back home completely with my mind blown, and just a huge place, full of wealth, full of movie star crap. And the joke was in LA, you always knew somebody who knew the person who was famous, but you didn't know the person that was actually famous. That's the talk in LA. The brother of so-and-so who knew the sister of, but you never actually met any of these people. So this is the Los Angeles dilemma. You have one section like Compton and these places where no one's having a good time. And then you have people up in Mulholland Drive, they're having a great time. And life is totally different. Los Angeles is a huge place. On the other side of here is a blue pool. On the other side of here is a blue pool. Afternoons, they serve iced tea and Coke, a Brentwood fantasy in Mulholland land. Pepper trees and grapefruit bees await us, perfumed intoxication a la the Santa Ana wind. We awake, pluck oranges in the chlorine heat. Fences and palm trees protect us. Water wavers high, waist high, as dragons fly by. A witness protection paradise. She writes letters till I arrive. A Shannon River diary, far from the weeping. LA music biz buzz, artificial like Vegas. A place called Progress, right next to Boring. On the other side of here is a blue pool. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay, I just want to read something that was written October 2017, and the COVID virus started December 2019, approximately 2 years later. And what I have here is a little piece that I submitted to a magazine in Portland, Oregon, called Gobshite Review, or Gobshite Quarterly. Gobshite meaning something of little consequence. So the little piece I want to read is called About with the Trump Virus. So this is actually a flash fiction piece. Remember, this is written 2 years before the Trump virus. I mean, before the COVID-19 virus. About with the Trump virus. Joe had been drifting in and out of troubled sleep, feeling cold and clammy in the hospital bed. But the thought of acquiring a Martin D28 guitar eased some of the anxiety. It probably is just a nasty flu, he tried to soothe himself. He wanted to give his nephew Rick the best guitar he can afford for his 18th birthday. For one thing, Rick's mom, Sophia, took him in when the parents died in a car accident and did so over the protest of her husband, Richard. I'm only a pizza maker, he objected. I ain't made of dough. She retorted that if he can't help a 14-year-old orphan boy to place him in a foster home, that she wasn't going to talk with him too well. Now at 21, Joe's been on his own for 3 years, and he wanted to repay his sister by encouraging Rick to pursue his love of music. Music is the only chance of getting out of this wasted post-industrial New Jersey town of Farmingdale. Not many do. Most are buried here. At all the local youth talent shows, everyone saw Rick as a young Sinatra. Joe had saved $2.5 grand from a year's wages and tips delivering pizza for this. As Joe was dreaming how famous Rick was going to be, there was a red light knock on the hospital room door. The doctor came in with his lab coat button, looking very stern, frowned, and said, "Sorry, Joe, this is bad. It's the Trump virus. We have an experimental serum for it, and it's expensive. I can't take a couple aspirins to go home? No, Joe, it's a matter of life and death in 24 hours. The serum costs $2.5 grand, and we have no insurance for you on file." The doctor told Joe that the nurse would be back to get his answer in a bit and left the room. The news shocked Joe's brain into the gravity of the situation. It only took Joe a minute to realize the answer. I got to live, because if I do have plenty of time to help Rick. Can you blame me if I decided to live? This was submitted to the Gobshite Review, October 3rd, 2017, and they should have that on record. Thank you very much.
I'm practicing a form of escapism, like Mary, who wrote about her father. I'm continuing writing my poems about my father, who died a year later than yours in 97. And this poem deals a little bit with the situation in Poland and my father. I'm from the Northwest, Polish Northwest. Let me show you the screen here. Doesn't come up. Share
Send it.
this. It doesn't come. Okay, can you see the screen now?
Yes,
Okay, there's a map of Poland, right?
right.
Wonderful. So if you enlarge it a little bit, right here, this is my hometown, Szczecin. This is the northwest. Berlin is right here. And the poem is about this lake and the carbs in this particular lake right here, which is called Głębokie, the deep lake. Let me give you a couple of words here. The Polish word po niemieckie is post-German. Everything was post-German in Poland. Głębokie means deep lake. The German flag is, of course, black, red, and yellow. The German word raus that you could hear throughout Europe during the war was get out. That's the meaning of it. Hände hoch, everybody knows that word. That's get out. And die Karpfen, that's carbs. And Bochum is the town in Germany, not far from Cologne, where my father was born. And so the poem is titled Post-German Carbs. In Szczecin, everything was post-German, even carbs in the lake Głębokie, Glembek-See, as the Germans called it. When we were kids, we watched the giant fish with interest, slowly sliding above the bottom, watching for the Germans' features. They were not yellow, nor red, nor black, did not shout raus or Hände hoch or anything. If anything, they were basking in prosperity. Die Karpfen, that's what we used to call him in Bochum, said my father, who often recalled his hometown. But we knew better. The fish had no voice, especially the post-German carbs. Irrational water management lowered the level of groundwater, and the deep lake became shallow. The carbs also got hit pretty bad. By the way, in Michigan, you can see those big carbs in Ludington. There's a piers that extend into the, and some of them are 60 pounders. Well, thank you.
Thank you. One short one and one in process. A note to my offspring. You may wish that your parents were smarter than they are, or richer, wiser, kinder, or cooler, or more forgiving, or less forgiving, but they are not. This is called, this is a work in progress, the connection between plumbing and poetry. This is for all you poets. So once I had an old house and was in the middle of a plumbing job, fixing a toilet, I think the one proper toilet in the house, not the bootleg one in the basement. On my third trip to the hardware store, I remarked and groused to the guy helping me at the store that here I am back again, no offense. I'm stuck in plumbing purgatory, fixing a toilet, getting more parts. He cocked his head and asked, how many trips does this make? And whereupon I groaned that this was my third. Oh, he tossed off a mock serious. It usually takes about 5. So I had a great laugh and was released from my self-loathing, if only for a while, but he was right. Now I find writing a poem takes a lot of edits. Never do they come out straight. Multiple trips to the well are required. It usually takes about 5.
Myself.
Thank you. Mine's called Mud. It's on the for the rattle ekphrastic I was working on, ekphrastic poem. Mud. The first time I noticed the mud was on my fingertips. I left brown smudges on my clean towels, on the box of shredded wheat, on my package of raspberry fruit strips. When I got out of bed to put on my slippers and socks, the dirty underwear I wore shed dust on the floor. The mud spread over my body like purple loosestrife. I secured every window and locked the outside doors. I pulled down the shades and changed my entire life. I stopped going to Target, to Walgreens, to anywhere. I signed up for Netflix, for Hulu, for Amazon Prime. I curled up in pajamas and blankets and lived on a prayer. I had all my food delivered and spent my last dime. I am a mud lover now, wearing a mask to cover my face. I am happy and secure and will never leave this place.
Anyhow, I've been compiling all of my writings about Los Angeles that I've done over the years in the hopes of putting them into some sort of, memoir of Los Angeles form. And so I was going to read a piece that I wrote 5 years ago about my visit to LA in 2005. Anyhow, it's called Her Poetry Lives on Bathroom Walls. On Super Bowl Sunday in 2005, I was broke and busted and I returned to Los Angeles like an elephant looking for a graveyard. So of course, I was at the Beyond Baroque open reading because years of suffering had made me a poet. I read from my book, Diary of a Homeless Alcoholic, Suicidal Maniac, and Other Picture Postcards. It went well, got a lot of laughs. At the break in the lobby, a wild-haired old hippie broad dressed in bag lady chic said she wanted to buy my book. Would I take a check? Sure, I said. I didn't even have a bank account. And neither of us had a pen either. Someone had a Sharpie, however, and I got my $7 check, nearly illegible, written in big-assed black marker. Geez, I hope I can find someone who will cash this, I thought as I stared at it on the porch while having a smoke. The name on the upper left corner troubled me. It was so familiar. Then it hit me. Oh my God, John Thomas, Charles Bukowski, poet of Venice. Rushing back into the auditorium, I threw myself into the seat next to her and gushed, let me just say what an honor it is to have my book purchased by the Queen of Bohemia. Letting out a raucous bark, she reached over and literally patted me on the top of the head. Who the hell even does that except in 19th century novels? Nevertheless, I vowed to never wash my greasy ponytailed locks again. Yeah, like I do that very often anyway, because I had been benedicted. After the reading, I asked my new friend the directions to Abbott's Habit, where another open mic would be starting in an hour. She told me and wished me well on my journey. When I got to the coffee house, I threw my backpack on the bench to save the seat and asked the person next to me to watch it while I went to the bathroom. She was a very old lady with an astonishing set of whiskers at the point of her chin, which made me think of Gandalf for some reason. Taking her barely audible grunt as an assent, I went about my business. Later that night, I just about had a stroke when she was introduced as one of the readers. I had managed to meet both Philomene Long and Franci on the very same February evening. Philomene Long is the Queen of Venice. Her poems are on bathroom walls because in Venice they have all the famous poets inscribed on the outdoor cement stalls. And Philomene is also in the Outlaw Bible of American Poetry. Franci is most famous for being Charles Bukowski's ex-wife and the mother of his daughter. And she's also a poet who wrote Snaggletooth in Ocean Park. And she has a big beard. Anyhow, that's my poem. And sorry I missed you, Lou and Mary.